Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Webisode Watch Episode 10. Today I have a bunch of people from the web series Basic Adventuring 101, and I'm going to start with those that are currently with us. There are a few that are going to be joining us in a little bit's time. Who you are, and yeah, explain a little bit about your role with the show. So we'll start with Kristen.
Hi, I am Kristen Brumley. I am the executive producer. And also, I played Karen, the main role, because I'm like that.
Next, jump ball.
Hi, I'm Madison. I was the director for some reason. And editor, I forgot.
Oh yeah, Maddie, you did other things.
I did other things. I did
Right.
that. I directed and edited Basic Adventuring 101.
All right, Liz, you're up.
All right, I'm Liz. I was the writer and supervisor, and I did other things.
We've got like a...
Hi, Tammy.
Tammy's
freaking out.
Tammy's been muted, so when Tammy figures it out, we'll unmute her.
All right, good call.
Just wave when you are ready, Tammy, and we'll go on. Anyway, continue on, Liz.
That was really it. Script supervisor, writer, all-around den mother.
All right, Eric, jump on in.
My name's Eric. I play Brian. He's the game master.
It's a monster.
We got a lot of noise on your mic, Tammy. A lot of noise. And Nate, jump on in.
I was the lead makeup artist, and then they made me play a goblin, and that was kind of awesome.
Perfect. All right, Tammy, when you think you got your noise straightened out, just unmute yourself, and we will check at that point. So right off the top, I need to explain some of the questions I'll be asking tonight. It was very difficult for me to separate playing a role in a web series from playing a role in a LARP session. So you're going to find a lot of these things are kind of a combined question. By all means, take an angle on either one of them, be it from a web series point of view or from just a player in a LARP session. So right off the top, whoever wants it, explain to me Basic Adventuring 101.
I don't want to take this question, guys. I want somebody else to take it, actually.
I can do it because I'm not a LARPer.
Do
I
it!
might have more
Do it, Nate.
objective. Okay, so what I like about it is it takes place in 2 dimensions at once. It takes place in the real world, where everybody's playing this goofy game with terrible costumes and terrible acting, and then in this imagination world where everything is real. The sword fights and monsters are real, and it kind of goes back and forth between these 2 dimensions for the viewer to better understand what it's like to actually play a game that is a LARPing game.
Very cool. As well, if somebody wants to talk about why it is so important to you guys as a group to have this portrayal of LARP from LARPers themselves.
Is this another one you're not handling, Kristen?
The more you guys answer things,
All
the
right.
better, because I answer these things all the time.
Personally, in popular media, there haven't been very many positive representations of LARPers. Off the top of my head, I can think of like role models. I haven't seen the Supernatural episode with LARPing, but generally it's like, oh, they're a bunch of like losers and dweebs who like do drugs all the time and like can't separate reality from fiction. And we just really wanted to show that, it's a goofy, fun hobby that pretty much anyone can enjoy.
It benefits the LARPers a lot to, it benefits our game if we get more people to come play it. So I think that's part of it too, is just trying to improve LARP as a whole, both for us and for all the other LARPers that we love.
Good stuff. Okay. Next question. How did Basic Adventuring or BA101 come about, and speak on the creative process that you guys went through in creating the show?
guess I'll answer this
Right.
one.
You have to at least start it, Kristen, because you're the
Yeah.
start of all of it.
All right, I started it. It was just an idea that I had in the car, like you do, and it was not, like I've always wanted to create a web series, and it just seemed natural to do something surrounded by LARP, because that's such a big part of, like, I mean, what I do in my spare time. So after having this idea, it was basically me contacting all of my best buds and asking if they would like to be a part of the project. So Liz was actually one of the first people that I talked to.
As I was like doing a long drive myself, which made it even better, you know.
Yeah. And for some reason she said that she would write it. And then it was like, I feel like after you had agreed that you were going to write it, it was literally like no more than a week later, and you had like a write-up, and like, and I think we should do this. Like,
right, I had like all the characters out. I had like, just as a joke, you know, or not really as a joke, I'd kind of written a script of like, hey, we should like write a little trailer for the LARP that we're doing, you know, get more interest. So I kind of like had some ideas, like, man, this would be really cool to like film. So, you know, I got to like develop the characters, and I kind of based them off of people I know. And I submitted to Kristen and Madison, and they're like, no, you have to change this. So then I'd rewrite, and they'd be like, no, you have to change this. They knew more what was filmable than I did. You know, I've done stage work, but film was a whole new beast for me. So.
Yeah, we got Maddie on the team. I think we assembled the team. First it was like Liz, and then I found Maddie, and we had these other people that didn't stay with the team, and then, you know, because that sometimes happens, and so it started around December 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we spent, I mean, a good like 4 months just figuring out what we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, okay, now we need money. So it was planning a Kickstarter, running the Kickstarter, and successfully making what we needed for the pilot episode. And then it was filming last summer, and then editing, and then editing, and editing, and editing, and editing, and then finally releasing it in April this year.
Awesome. You did touch a little bit on. Sorry, Tammy.
Tammy, you're still
got a lot of buzz going on, so I don't know if you have any other mics, but anyway, you touched on you developed these characters, and there was a collaborative process on how you did it, and you based these on people you knew. Is this new from just your LARPing experiences, or people that you knew?
Liz, you're gonna have to answer this one.
A little bit of both. You know, there are some people some characters that I definitely based off people I know. Tony was based off of a very dear friend of mine. You know, Karen, you know, I kind of as I'm writing her, I'm like just remembering what it was like being a new LARPer and having no idea what's going on. Generally, you know, I know a bunch of people who like play characters like Abigail / Tasha. You know, it's kind of an amalgamation of both. I don't think I actually know anyone like Will, but I'm probably happier for it, honestly. So.
He's adorable.
He's adorable, but I don't think we would get along.
All right, Eric, maybe if you want to talk to us a little bit about GMing, or I'm not sure if this is something you do outside of the show, but if you want to touch base on kind of the role of the GM and how important they are to a LARP session themselves.
Sure. It is something that we've done. Kristen is actually the one who got me into LARPing probably about 3 years ago or so. And our home chapter, you know, we played there. We got to meet a lot of great people. We got to learn what LARPing was. And after a little while, Kristen decided that she wanted to try her hand at running plot. So She picked a couple people to help her out with that. Liz was one, I was another, and we got to see what it was like from the other side. Writing up all of the different plot, getting the NPCs together. It's a lot different than what I was kind of used to. I mean, I've been doing tabletop gaming for quite a while, and there's probably a lot of viewers out there who do the same thing, where you're writing just plot for one group of people. You know where they are. You're pretty sure where they're going to go. With LARPing, it's such an open experience. There's so many things happening at once, so many different groups of people, so many different ways that the plot could go, that you just have to be so much more prepared for that. You have to keep so many more aspects in play at the same time. But there's also one really nice thing about LARPing that you generally don't see as much in a tabletop game, which is that the players can find their own amusement. They will bring something from their character. Kristin's character, for example, does a lot of art in-game. Other characters will sell both the in-game swords that they've made, which is just a little piece of paper tag saying they have a sword, but also the buffers that they've made in real life. So there's a lot of just different merchant sort of activity going on. There's a lot of role-playing going on that's just player to player, where plot doesn't really need to be involved at all. But if we are, we can take those threads and just work that into our overall story as well. So really what I'm trying to say here is that there's a lot more balls in the air at once juggling a LARP than a tabletop game, but you have so much more to feed on also because the players are always doing their own thing even when they're unsupervised.
And sometimes they'll just go off in a direction you'll never expect.
So you got to be very dynamic.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, Nate, let's get you involved here. In any world where wounds take place, or any sort of fictional world where wounds take place, obviously they're key to setting the scene and the tone of any shot. How much prep time do you have for a scene, and what's the process you use in showing what you want to do for a scene before you actually shoot it?
Well, it depends, of course, on what somebody like the director or the producer wants to see. It depending on the final product, it could take several months of pre-planning. I would bet that if the series goes through the first season and into another season, if the makeup effects could almost just get infinitely complex. If people really like it and start backing it with a lot of money, but complex prosthetics, even not just wounds, but making big goblins that could take getting actors to a location all in one day to make life casts and then sculpt the monsters on top of the plaster copies of their faces. So all that stuff can take a long time. What we did for the pilot episode was a little less involved, which was good for me because at first it was just me that was going to do all of the makeup stuff, and then we found Kat, who helped out a lot. It was amazing to have an assistant. We probably did 2 or 3 test makeups for the producer and director to know what to expect from me, and then we just did that process again for the actors, and we didn't have to make any life casts or anything like that. It was essentially out of kit makeups, so blood, latex, a couple simple prosthetic applications for ears and noses and stuff like that, and so all in all, we probably put in I'd say 2 or 3 weeks of work beforehand. Well, at least I did. There were some other things I had to design as well, not just prosthetics. But, yep, that's some of that.
Very cool. Tammy, if you want to try your mic again.
Does this work? Can you hear me now?
Touchdown!
No,
No, it's good.
all right.
All right, great. Now, before I continue on, if anyone wants to have any of their questions read on air and to the cast of Basic Adventuring 101, you can rather submit them via Twitter if you want to use the hashtag WebisodeWatch, or you could just use @WebisodeWatch, or if you want to use the Q&A app, which is available in the Hangout itself. So any questions you guys ask, I will definitely do my best to get them on air. Next question. In a LARPing web series, you need to have people acting in character, and to provide a proper perspective, you need to see them out of character as well. How difficult was it to show the difference between the two?
I think it was pretty simple, personally, but I think a lot of it had to do with the costuming was so different, and I mean that was part of the fun. Where we're like, all right, so now let's simplify everything that we've already what we put on everybody.
Yeah, that was actually pretty fun when you had to strip down a couple of things just to make you guys look different.
Yeah, where I put on jeans instead of tights and
sunglasses.
Yeah, I put sunglasses on by accident. That worked out pretty well. You know, we added a fan to Saker's character because he was wearing it all the time anyway, around his neck because he was dying from heat. And then as far as the characters, and a lot of it had to do with just the way that it was written. So Liz wrote it in such a way that it changed. Karen's character, and this is probably why I say it was easy. Karen's in-game character and out-of-game character was actually pretty much the same, and we did that on purpose. So for me, it was really easy. and I guess for Brian, it was really easy too.
Yeah, I only had the one character.
So far. So far.
Dum, dum, dum.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, Tammy, let's get you involved in here. How much time and money did it take to make any given costume for the show? And what is more seen in actual LARP sessions, the in-game polished costumes or the less polished versions you saw the characters wearing out of game?
I made a couple of the costume pieces and kind of put together from what we had laying around more than anything, and I think it was less money than it was time for the stuff I put into it, because it was stuff I'd had from previous LARPing or things that people had given us, and it was a matter of strapping it onto people. There's these sheepskin boots that one of the goblins is wearing, and it's just all these remnants of sheepskin that are just pinned to him and strapped to him. It took an hour to get these things on him. So that was a lot of what I did, and then there was this one set of bracers that AJ's wearing. I forget what her character is. She's wearing that I had to make on set. Sarah, there we go.
Yeah.
And so it was just I sat down and a half hour later I'm like, okay, try this. Put these on, see if they fit. So that's actually sometimes what happens in LARPs is kind of that, because we kind of find things that we like and we want to wear them, so we just kind of find a reason to wear them and put them all together. Like I said, most of the stuff that I had brought came from previous costumes I'd worn, and it was kind of just adapting them, being does this work for this monster or not? And I'd brought all my gear-making tools with me, so it was really interesting to see what was useful and what wasn't. But a lot of the LARPers that I know actually put a ton of money and time into their costumes, and I don't even want to guess how much money is in some of them, because I've seen people in full plate mail. It's something else to see sometimes.
Wow.
And we rented our plate mail from Plays with Swords, so we didn't have to buy that.
Yeah.
That's good.
That would have been... Yeah.
All right, we got our first viewer question. It comes from Trainer Jody, who asks Kristen specifically, how do you go about infecting people with the need to LARP? Or in other words, how do you get new people interested in this hobby?
I bite them. It's actually an injection from a gland in my mouth. Never mind.
I don't remember this at all.
I don't either. Evidently, it has an amnesia component.
There is
I
definitely
can
an
validate that, actually.
What? Oh.
Oh, okay.
I think maybe if we have a real answer to this, it's that LARPers cannot stop talking about LARPing to their geek friends, and If you hear about it enough, you get very curious, especially in my case. I mean, in a lot of ways, I got inducted by Liz and Eric at a con one day, and I was like, okay, we have to do this. We just have to go. And now it's been an adventure trying to talk my husband into going, so we'll see if that works.
Yep. Yeah, actually, I think most of my friends that currently LARP are LARPing because I introduced it to them, at least somebody, and then they would introduce it to somebody else, and then some of my friends are married now. Really, I brought everyone together. That's really what happened.
Call you, Kristen.
I don't have a big head. I mean, I don't know. I think it's with anything. If you're passionate about something, and yeah, like Tammy said, if you're talking about it, and it's just like, and you clearly love it, I think that's part of what makes it infectious.
Right, and I will say, one of the reasons why I went was I was teaching like two-handed sword fighting classes at the time, and Kristen's like, yeah, you can hit lots of people, and I'm like, I like hitting people. Hitting people with swords is fun. So, just, play up the hitting people with plumbing supplies aspect of it, I guess.
Whatever they
Violence.
like.
Liz's call was the violence aspect. There are
Yeah,
different
was violence.
people. For Kristen, it's the creativity and the storytelling. And for Tammy, it's the, like everybody all friends together. And for Liz, it's just, beating on people.
Well, there are other parts of it too, but, that's the, one of the driving forces.
No. It's the only reason.
All right, on to the next question. How important is a location to a successful session or shoot when filming these sort of things, or just participating in these things?
Madison, I think this is all you.
Yeah,
Oh my. Okay. First, there is no such thing as a perfect location. There can be good locations, and that can vary by day, as we found out the hard way, the hardest way.
Brew.
Yeah. Okay. So vast majority. Yeah, the vast majority of the pilot episode is shot in Kristen's parents' backyard. Their house abuts a lovely forest. And like, this would be perfect. Like, if we walk far enough back, you can't see houses anywhere. And it's a relatively spread out neighborhood, so it should be fine. What we did not know is that Kristen's parents' house is, about 3 miles away from a small municipal airport?
Yep.
And so we would very often have to pause, because we could hear planes in the boom mic. And there was one day that was so bad that our behind-the-scenes guy, Zach, looked it up, and it turned out it was annual aviation day at this airport, and it was a ridiculously difficult day of shooting.
Wow.
So it's very, very, very important to have a good location, but there's so many elements that go into a good location that you just do what you can with what you have.
All right. Makes sense to me. Okay, so let's get into some nitty-gritty here. For the pilot, the production quality, in my opinion, was really good. Explain to us how it was funded, and also explain your current Kickstarter campaign.
Okay. It was funded through Kickstarter. We had a Kickstarter last April. Not last April, 2 Aprils ago now. 2013. I can't keep the years straight anymore, guys. Too many trips in the TARDIS. It was about a month campaign, and we just aimed to raise $5,000 just to produce the pilot, and we surpassed that goal and made, I think, 6,200 something like that, which was fantastic. It was extremely exciting, very humbling, and I'm very honored that people trusted us with their money. And so that paid for food and a little bit of travel, and weapon rental, costuming rental, equipment, and then also paying for a little bit of art stuff and music, soundtrack, and yeah, you know, all that good stuff.
And I'm going to interject there real quickly too, because one of the keys is that the soundtrack was originally not even included in that. That was a stretch goal that we hit. But in my opinion, that was one of the things that added the most to the overall production value of the episode. Yes. So thanks to the backers who went above and beyond the original amount that we were asking for, you know, we really were able to step it up, you know, to that next level because of that soundtrack.
It's a good point. That rap song gets stuck in your head.
So good.
The rap song is by Baker, who plays Will, by the way.
Do you have your stick puppet with you?
I don't. I wish I could be like, Baker's right here. You know you wanna. Him and his friend, I think it's Chris, they have a band and they do gaming rap songs.
It's D20, isn't it?
D20.
2D6.
2D6. They're actually doing a Kickstarter currently of their own, and they are fantastic. I love their music, and I love the fact that our pilot ends on kind of like a 90s style rap song.
Which is just like an item off my bucket list. I was so excited to watch that.
We just made Liz's like life with that.
I'm also going to do a quick correction. The other guy in that is Cliff B.
Oh, thank you, Cliff. I was like, there's a C and
some vowels.
All I know.
And a consonant or two.
And it's short. It's not like.
Well, Saker's musical like all the time.
Now, as far as continued funding, so we're looking at we're currently doing another Kickstarter to finish the season, and we're asking for $25,000. And so a lot of that's going toward actually paying people that worked completely for free, and also location fees. I mean, we have a lot of things that we squeaked by to get for the pilot, and that we're trying to we're trying to give people what they actually deserve in terms of work, and to maintain the quality, especially because it's a lot more content than what we produced last year. So we're doing this Kickstarter. It ends in a week, like almost exactly. Yeah. So, and I think we just hit 10,400 something. So that's pretty awesome. That's like 43% funded. Huzzah!
There you go.
Yeah.
So everybody get up there and help this this first season finish off for us. Now, let's re-involve Eric in some conversation here. Eric, you and I we share the same job. I'm also in IT. I make computers beep boop. Is working on a project like Basic Inventory 101, does this allow you to tap into a passion that's very different from what you do as a job from day to day?
Yes, but it's, I don't know, the way you say it makes it feel like it's a need or something like that, and I don't want to say that I like fit into that stereotype where I'm just, you know, this complete introvert working on a computer all day long that needs to get out. The characters that I play tend to actually be, for the most part, the same person I am in real life. I don't role play as much as, you know, some others do. I don't need that outlet of another persona, of another, you know, characteristic of myself necessarily. But to me, I guess the biggest thing, you know, to tie this in with my job is just that one of the things that really interested me in LARPing was the fact that it generally takes place over a weekend. You are in game for the entire time. When you're sleeping, you're in game. When you're eating, you're in game. Everything is in game. The only LARPing that I'd ever seen before joining up with Kristen here was some vampire LARPers at the college that I went to, and they would just play for a couple hours at a time. They would just be out on kind of a little park area, and they'd sort of stand around and role play together. And that just, I mean, they were probably having a lot of fun, but that didn't interest me at all. When I heard that, no, you're running around in the woods, you are sleeping in game, you're bringing a sword with you everywhere you go because you might get attacked, that really pulled me into the game. And I think part of the reason that does interest me so much is that my job is sitting in front of a computer all day, and my hobby is going home and sitting in front of a computer all day playing video games. So the getting out, running around, hiding in the woods sometimes when there's a big monster passing by that you don't quite want to fight, that's really what pulled me into it. And I do like the fact that that's very different than the job that I have.
Yeah, I'm of a very similar thing. Like I'm very outdoorsy as well. I was just playing golf before I came here. I may do what I do from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, God fearing nothing going wrong. But when I'm not, I'm the same thing. I need to get out and about. I think it's a trait of a well-balanced person that when you can do that sort of thing. And it's actually interesting that you brought up Vampire, because that's the only experience with LARP I'd had prior to watching the show of yours. I had an ex that did the vampire thing as well, and she would go downtown and she would interact with the people there, and it always was a bad thing. And that's why I was trying to get it to the location question, because they would basically immerse themselves into real life culture, and I had to bail her out of jail once. Like, it was just, there was stupid things that kept happening. So I'm anyway, here nor there. I should move on.
That sounds
What sort of LARP is
Yo,
that?
what's going on?
Yeah, I started to tangent. I'm like, this isn't about me. Okay, so let's
There more though.
we'll talk off stream.
Okay.
Okay, Nate, in roles where actors move around a lot, how difficult is it to have the makeup stay in place and not get affected by perspiration or just the jarring of moving around?
That was the question I had too. I don't know how difficult this is gonna be, and the thing that was most difficult was honestly in the pilot episode was the goblins makeup, because we used a couple different kinds of green paint on myself and Mr. Rob, and it would just rub off around the collar, and kind of the sweat would run. I had another type of makeup that wasn't water soluble, so you put it on and it would stay whether you'd sweat or not. But the prosthetics, actually, we didn't have much of a problem with, and I thought that was kind of cool. I sealed the prosthetics onto the skin with this like glue putty stuff, and so that really helped to keep them in place. But they also weren't very heavy. They weren't thick prosthetics that like are in the Lord of the Rings. Like those things are just intense, and we weren't having a whole lot of involved long like running days or big intense fighting where everyone's exerting themselves like to the limit. So I felt like the whole shoot worked well. Like all the different elements worked well in the shoot to make you put the makeup on, and then we just had to do little touch-ups here and there. So that was really cool. But we'll see what happens this next season when it gets funded, guys.
All right, Madison, next question is for you. What sort of challenges did you face while directing the pilot with the hopes of more episodes yet to come?
There were a lot of questions of how much do we give away in the pilot? How far are we going in the pilot? How long does the pilot need to be? There were a lot of basic questions like that, trying to figure out how do we entice the audience but not give away all of our plot elements for the rest of the season. So we had a lot of meetings that talked about, okay, well, we want this because this shows that we can do this, like the fight scene. It was really important to us that we had the fight scene in there to show that we could do it, and that to hint, there would be more of that to come. So it was just this kind of balancing act of what all can we put in the pilot without making it crazy long, because we easily could have made it like 20 minutes. We would have been fine with that. However, that doesn't go over very well with the YouTube audience, so we had to like trim things down a lot and really figure out what was the most important thing to put out there. to kind of entice people and bring them in.
Perfect. Okay, you mentioned the fight scenes, and I wanted to touch base on that. How did the training and the execution of these fight scenes go about?
Rob and Maria. That's how. We had two fight choreographers come in, and there was a training day where they're like, okay, here's how you use a sword for stage combat, basically. They taught everybody kind of like how to be safe, and they came in and choreographed all of the fight scenes. Rob is one of the goblins, and the not Nate goblin, that one's Rob. And
the better goblin.
The what?
The better
Rob
goblin.
Right. So they are incredibly skilled at what they do. They're very, very good, and taught our actors how to move, how to hit in safe ways, but still look really dangerous on screen. And without them, none of that fighting would have been possible. They were fantastic. They were absolutely amazing. I think they provided a lot of the weaponry as well.
They all of it, except for one, which is mine. Like, that was it.
They provided a bunch of the costume pieces too, actually, like the armor bits.
Yeah.
They were wonderful. They were really, really wonderful.
I know. I'm dumbass. Okay.
He's muted.
Yeah, the thing beeped at me, and I was like, dumbass. Okay. While writing roles, Liz, sorry. While writing roles that are both in and out of character, more or less existing in two worlds simultaneously, how difficult is it to have separation between the worlds, or is bleeding them together the real challenge?
Again, part of this goes back to my experience with film. I think writing the separation is very easy, but trying to put into words like how it's different and creating a firm demarcation is really the hard part. Just because when you're LARPing, there's a lot of bleed between in and out of game. You might just have like a sentence or two like, hey, what's like Bob at the tavern serving out of game, and then you go like right back into it. So it's really hard for me to like establish like the out of game part of it. If my answer makes any sense at all.
No, that's cool. It was one of those things. It's like, this is rather very easy or very hard, and
right.
I just wanted to clarify which it was. Okay, so jump ball question. Some fantasy worlds that I have read or played video games on have very strong female roles. Others have weaker female roles, but most have men that are protectors of the female characters as opposed to treating them as equals. I've seen some of the lines that Saker's character was putting out was in that ilk. How do you wish to see these gender roles portrayed in Basic Adventuring 101?
Maiden.
I just want to see people portrayed as people. I'm drawing on my experience as a woman, as a LARPer when I'm writing this, but really, sometimes there are men who just go like full like milady out there, in everyday conversation, and there's some who are like who are much more laid back. Really, I just want to see the whole gamut, the whole wonderful gamut of the human experience, portrayed in the fantasy world.
I think you got a representative of almost all of them too. They're like stereotypes.
Perfect.
I personally want to see a lot of strength from the women. I know there's a part in the pilot where AJ, sorry, I'm losing track of all of their names. It's been a
Sarah.
while. That's what I thought. Umbra, that was it. Umbra falls down while running to fight, and Brad
/ Ranger.
Ranger stays back to take, kind of like guard her while she's getting up. And that was something we kind of had to write in because we didn't have time to have the large fight scene that we had originally written. So we're like, okay, we need to cut this down so it's like 2 people fighting. And I just know that Sarah, Umbra, her character, that would drive her crazy that she would miss a fight. And what I'm looking forward to in later parts of the season is really seeing her go at it, because I think she will be like feisty and just like stabby and really happy about it. I'd like to see more. We only really saw one girl fight in this episode, and I'd like to see more of that.
No, that was actually something I had a question on, so that answers 2 birds with 1 stone. I wasn't sure if that was by design or is that an edit that needed to be put in for whatever reason. So I was glad to hear that was by design. Good. Now, something that I came across was at times it seemed the character of Echo was getting frustrated with the direction of the plot. This came across when she was, talking with Saker, and he was saying that, we'll save you if things go wrong, or stuff along those lines. Did I get the point on that, or did I completely miss it?
Oh yeah, and she was getting interrupted like every time she opened her mouth, and yeah.
No, that was very much the point. I think being dumped into a LARP, if you don't have that background, if you don't understand the fantasy tropes, the D&D tropes, you're gonna be like, no, seriously, why can't I just smash this box open? Seriously, I got a rock right here. So
there's LARP.
No, I think I got it.
I got this, guy.
I got this.
And in the original draft, we definitely did have a lot more of that. Doesn't make sense. So.
Good stuff. Now, sure, playing the heroes has got to be a lot of fun in a LARP session, but how difficult is it to have people play villains, NPCs, or other background characters?
I played a background character.
Yes, Nate, do you want to talk about how it was being a villain?
I guess
and an NPC.
And an NPC?
Well, I was an NPC, that's right. I was not a player character. I thought it was a ton of fun, personally. I didn't find it difficult. Well, I did find it intimidating to do my own makeup because I had to, because everybody else was doing other things. But that was like the worst of it. That I had tons of fun running around in the woods attacking people.
I'd like to answer that question from a LARP perspective, not the the webisode that we're doing here. But one of the problems that we seem to have when we do send an NPC out, to play a villain, to play an NPC or background character, is the amount of information that they have. We tell them, okay, you're a merchant, you're just selling some equipment in town, or you're the big bad guy that's been terrorizing this whole city for the last 2 years or something like that. And we give them what we think is the relevant information. But then when they go out there and the players start asking them other questions, they have to be improving. And when you're a player, you know what your background is. The way you would answer is, of course, the way you would answer. You are your own character. When you're playing a role that was given to you, though, you can't fall into the trap of like a video game character that just repeats the same lines over and over and over again every time somebody goes up and presses A. Welcome to Corneria. So they will start improving, but that what they make up, what they expected that character to answer, isn't necessarily what the plot guy was expecting. And now your NPC that you sent out there to play the big bad guy might have just changed the way you have to run the next mod or two because of some off-the-cuff answer that they gave just to answer a question that they didn't think was that important. So it's definitely different playing an NPC versus a PC. You don't have your own experiences playing the PC event after event to pull from, and if you do have to make up an answer, it can be the wrong answer, whereas when you're a PC, whatever you say that's your character, it's what you say.
Very cool. Glad to get that. Okay, Kristen, this next one's for you. A good friend of both of ours, Mo O'Brien, did a review of your show, and she brought up some good points. And one thing she did mention was adding exposition to the show to explain to those people who may not know what's going on. What are your thoughts on this?
It was actually something that was, like, in one of our earlier drafts, it was something that was in there, and or at least talked about. And it was something that was cut and that we decided we wanted in a later episode for different reasons,
really
mostly
for pacing and for pacing and time.
Yeah, pacing was a big one because we were trying to create an illusion of a fantasy world before we wanted to create an illusion of or break the illusion. We wanted the illusion to be established first. Mm-hmm. And so it was very hard to then break the illusion, then switch back into some period where we're now introducing what LARPing even is, even though they should already know what it is because they had already been there. Like, it was just a lot of logic stuff that just couldn't be resolved in the way that we wanted to present it.
And, like, in 15 minutes or less.
Right, exactly. So, but I will say that the plan is to give some more exposition through the rest of the series.
Good, fair enough. Tammy, this is more just a statement that came up in my whole prep for this that I wanted to let you know. Kristen let me know how very important your positive attitude was to the filming, and she just wanted me to, and I wanted to. I wanted to recognize you for that because I know that's a skill that's not as easy to do on a day-to-day basis. So that's more that than anything else.
You guys.
All right, Kristen. Sorry. Kristen, if you want to explain to me the goal of Cake Golem Productions.
Cake Golem Productions is that our new sound effect? Kind of I
prefer the pun.
That's the basic adventuring 101.
That's true.
Sound.
You're right. Okay. Cake Golem.
Cake Golem still needs a sound. It still needs a logo. So if anybody is out there and wants to make a sound for a Cake Golem.
Wasn't that based off of the story you had
yes.
from a LARP event?
Cake Golem got its name from a LARP plot line that I was in charge of, where my character Rosa decided that she wanted to create golems, but not just any golems.
Wait, what sort of character was Rosa?
She was a cockroach person. Which was lovely. I love playing cockroaches as a type of person. I don't know. There's something about being a bug, and one that's all about survival.
I love this one.
And so Rosa decided not only did she want to build a golem, she wanted to build a cake golem, because what is better than delicious cake? So we had a whole plot line going where she would send a cake golem to the adventurers, in which they thought it was a monster. I mean, it was pretty gross and ugly. And
I had to be the cake golem. Remember that?
That was awesome.
It was so much fun.
Cupcake pinata, and we stuck it on your head.
And we sprayed you with silly string.
Yeah. And it was actually one of the most ridiculous things. I mean, when we talk about LARPing and like being serious and stuff, it's like, all right, Cake Golem's probably not that immersive, but it was really fun. Super silly, but whatever. Anyway, so that's where it got its name, because it was one of my most favorite things running LARP, and it was like, it's just good memories, good times. So Cake Golem Productions is, it's meant to be a video production company that also specializes in marketing for geeky companies, like other geeky people who are doing geeky things. So while we're producing this series about LARPers in this fictional story, the idea is that we also want to be helping other people tell their stories and help people be successful in whatever geeky venture that they are partaking in, whether that's creating a LARP game of their own or We're creating a LARP city, which is actually a project that's happening, and I'm really excited about it. We can talk about that another time. But so yeah, anything from logos to websites to videos, that's what we're here for.
Awesome. We have another viewer question. What are your opinions of using stereotypes and tropes in your web series?
I personally try to avoid them. It's hard to avoid tropes. It's hard to avoid stereotypes. You know,
they just kind of happen.
I mean, it happens, but you know, I try to be aware if I'm using a trope consciously or if I'm just doing lazy writer shorthand. So I have spent a lot of time like thinking about what tropes and what stereotypes I want in there. So it's kind of unavoidable unless you are super brilliant and super experienced as a writer. Or, you know, it's going to happen, but I try to be conscious and aware.
That was actually something that I thought was very interesting about this project, is that the characters aren't just stereotypes. I mean, if you go and watch something like, role models comes to mind, like you have just like a lot of, you know, the really stereotypical, like way too into it type people that are very easy to write because they're very funny. But Liz focused really hard, like she said, she drew on people she actually knew. So the characters have a different sort of feel to them than in a lot of more traditional LARP media, basically. And I thought that was very interesting. They're not just like, okay, they kind of play those characters. Like, for example, Will plays the knight who is chivalrous and, you know, yeah. But when you get down to, like, in real life, they're a lot more complicated than that. And I think that's very interesting.
Very cool. Here's a dream question for you. If you were to have any guest star for the remainder of season from Basic Adventuring 101, who would you like to have?
We've already asked Will Wheaton, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, one of our goals is to become internet famous and best friends with Will Wheaton and Joss Whedon. So,
yeah.
It has to be, you know, one of those two. Yeah, I'd be fine with either.
Buds.
Can we have Neil Patrick Harris third?
Yes.
Yes, that'd be great.
You can be there for our obligatory musical episode.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Which is going to happen one day.
Which
it is.
Right, whether you want to film it or not. You know that.
Oh, no. I already have the outline for the obligatory musical episode. It's in, like, season 2, but it's happening.
What's the most musical cast you've ever seen, so it'll be fine.
We sing a lot.
I have a video about that.
Only our backers got to see that video.
Oh, okay.
What?
Secret video about that.
Yeah.
So
what
if
video, correct me?
if you back our Kickstarter, you can see this amazing video.
Yeah. It's, what is it? 2 or 3 minutes just of clips that I pulled out where everybody's singing.
Yes.
Just not just off camera. Like, most of the time they don't know they're being recorded. It's just everybody sings all the time.
And we sing in harmony.
That's the best part.
Yes, we do. Well, that's like the I think it was the blooper reel where Saker started doing like this little like rap thing, and we all just started joining in. We didn't even know what it was. We just made it up.
We did.
That was the blooper reel from the
LARP shop.
video that we did of Shop. Yes.
Yeah.
We have a lot of bloopers.
We're fun
We're
people.
very goofy.
The what video cracked me up. I don't know why. Just, what?
What?
And so I was confused, and so I said, what?
What?
Maddie had more, apparently, and that didn't make that video.
Yeah, that's true. I did.
Just so
more
you
that
are aware, that was not all the whats that whatted.
No, it is not.
All right, guys.
Do
If
you
you were
ever
to
make that film?
go ahead, Tim.
Do you ever make the film of Liz with all the like camera take clips too?
Oh, don't worry. Those are forthcoming. There are a couple other things that I have to get done for the backers, but I have at least 3 or 4 just like personal, these are funny to me videos coming out, a lot of which have to do with clapboards.
If you guys were to reshoot the pilot tomorrow, what would you do differently?
Why are you laughing so much, Maddie?
There's so many things.
Well, first off, we would, because we're filming tomorrow, we wouldn't be filming on National Aviation Day.
That was the first thing.
So that's a big,
Real big.
Wait,
okay, are you telling me that starting tomorrow and we'd only have one day to reshoot everything? Or starting tomorrow and we could keep going for a while? Like, it depends.
Yeah, you can keep going. You don't have one day. You can just reshoot the pilot.
Just starting tomorrow, we could.
I would love to, like, at least a day beforehand get everyone into their complete costumes from, like, top to bottom so that we weren't just, like, kind of last minute being like, no, that's not enough, like, random stuff. Like, put more on.
That would have been nice. Well, I mean,
That would be
scheduling
good.
was so hard. I mean, and no matter what we do, there's really no changing it. If dreams were to come true, I mean, it would be one of those, like, all right, guys, we're erasing everything else on everyone's calendars for an entire week, and this is the only thing that you're doing.
I know. Longer fight scene.
Longer fight scene.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I'd want to redo the scene with the old woman, because no one else probably knows, because no one else edited it that I'm aware of. But there were a ton of little tiny mistakes in that drive me crazy when I rewatch it, like wrong hands in between cuts and things like that.
I know, that drives me nuts.
It was really hard to cross over audio, so I learned a lot from that scene that I would redo again. But the main reason I'd want to do that again is for the Sarah Krause as the old woman bloopers, which are the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, from an actor's perspective, I learned watching it how much more important it is to remember where I put my hands at all times, especially when I'm holding a box.
Oh, no, that is what we would do. We would reshoot all the scenes with the box in it without the freaking hole in the box.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
In the box in the bottom.
That's number one.
I didn't realize that until after.
I'm gonna go hide my face in shame.
Wait, guys. I know what we would change.
What would you say?
Go on. You have to finish that story first.
I just wanted to quickly explain. Like in every scene with the box, there's a big hole in the bottom of the box, and we did get that. What do you call it? Effects, special effects. We special effects it out.
They wiped it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So nobody else knows, but I know, and it hurts me. That's all.
Oh, jeez.
I would change sunglasses.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'd like to pick a day when Sarah's back didn't go out either.
Yeah, that's good too. Yeah.
Okay, this one will be more focused to Eric and Nathan, but what is the more typical newbie experience like for someone getting into LARP?
Holy crap.
Well, it's very different if you've never done anything like this versus if you've at least done something like a tabletop game, D&D, Pathfinder, something like that. Taking somebody who's played Dungeons and Dragons and bringing them into a LARP, they know, what sorts of stereotypes and tropes to expect here. So you're just focusing on kind of the rule system, realizing that there is some actual skill required to do a sword fight here instead of just rolling a die. But at the same time, making them realize that unlike a real fight where you can, kick somebody down and then just like stomp them in the head, there's some safety requirements also. So it's really just getting them the rules, making them comfortable with what level of physical roleplay is expected and what level of physical roleplay is not allowed. On the other hand, there's another type of person who's never done anything like that before. Maybe they have seen something like Lord of the Rings, but bringing them into this is usually quite a bit more different, it's different every time, basically. And they almost never know what to expect at all. And I kind of prefer helping out that person because it is just such a new experience for them on all fronts. But thanks to Kristen inviting me to LARP and then us having brought some others too, we've seen quite a few new players, and honestly, the vast majority of people who have been introduced to LARPing while we've been around have enjoyed it, have come back, and just can't get enough of it. It's the next level of tabletop gaming. If you like that, this is that, but more extreme and more fun.
I like to look at it like you are given permission to pretend you're a kid again, and pretend, but with a bunch of people in a big organized way with weapons, and you're hitting each other.
They're hitting each other again. Okay, jump ball question. Do you guys believe web content is a fad that we need to get onto right now, or do you believe it's the future of entertainment?
Oh, definitely the future. I mean, just the amount of content that goes online now and the fact that like advertising and things are following it, I think it's going to be more and more common that way.
It's hard
I don't know
to
if you all agree with me.
Well, I mean, I agree,
Like,
but it kind of depends, with things are potentially changing, with the FCC ruling, countries are cracking down on web content. I mean, there's a lot of factors going on to it, and it's really hard to say. I want to say yes because I love the internet. The internet is an amazing, magical place full of cats. But, it's really dependent on a lot of outside factors. So I'm really hoping the answer is yes, it is the future.
I think it's pretty obvious that it is definitely the future, but I think there's two main directions it can go based on what Liz said there. The first is if it stays open, if the FCC, for example, does rule that you can't have an internet fast lane and all that, and there's video content isn't blocked all over the place like it is in some areas, then we're going to see exactly what we're starting to see now. A lot of productions like ours, a lot of low-budget ones, indie productions that they wouldn't be able to afford to get onto ABC or Netflix or something like that, but they can put their content out there on YouTube, and that's great. However, if we do start locking down the internet more, for example, if these fast lanes do become a thing, then that's going to increase the cost of running a service like Netflix and YouTube, especially YouTube. So that means that now YouTube won't be able to offer streaming just for free. You may have to start paying to upload content there. This is kind of extreme, but this is the way that things are potentially going. And then you'll still be using the internet for content, but it will be the big budget productions again, not the little productions like we are.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, they're losing a lot of viewership to web content, I believe, and if big business has the ways, let's hope they don't, but I think they might go that way for sure. Now, a technical question again. In my limited filming experience, there are two major factors that play havoc with any production. One is sound, and the other is lighting. I found both in this episode to be spot on. Was this something? I mean, you're talking about the airplanes, but when dealing with these outdoor settings, is this easier or more difficult to pull off?
Almost everyone is, by the way.
We're all laughing.
I'm sorry. This is all you.
Okay, well, I can answer lighting a bit more quickly than sound. What I do like about shooting outdoors is that lighting isn't as much of a problem. Like I said before, a lot of what we shot was in a forest setting, and during the day, it's great because you get this like nice filtered light thing going on, which bounces everywhere, so everything's really well lit all around. The problem comes in on the first day of like real filming. We did have a thunderstorm roll in, so things like that can happen. There is a blooper that I think is in the public blooper reel that just went out where when we're shooting in a non-forest setting and it's outside with lighting can be an issue because the sun, if it's over here and their face is here, then this is kind of dark and this is kind of bright. So sometimes we had to use a bounce. We had a big round silver thing that we bounced the light. Hello, your cat's there now. That's nice.
Yeah, she does that.
So we would bounce the light, but it was very intense. I mean, there's some shots, there's some bloopers where Kristen just kind of basically breaks. Yeah, because she's got the sun literally going into her eyes. But for outdoor settings, lighting's really nice. sound is a madhouse. I have a whole separate blooper reel that hasn't come out yet where we are filming and then a loud noise happens and we have to cut. So it's good for lighting, but it's terrible for sound.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up really quickly. We'll go through each and every one of you individually. Why don't you talk to us about where we can find you on the interwebs, as well as any other projects that you may be working on, and we'll start with Eric this time.
Mine's going to be quick and boring. Nothing. Don't have anything else going on. I'm installing a big new SAN server at work. That's big news for us. But that's it.
He doesn't exist on the internet as well. You cannot find him anywhere.
I mean, at all. On Google Plus, I do post a couple things there, and I'm trying to get some of the photography that I do just as a hobby up there, although I've been pretty bad about that over the last year.
Kristen?
You can find me on Twitter and on YouTube and on Facebook, but mostly the YouTubes and the Twitters, which has the same handle, which is ORLYSUNJA. Oh, really, Sunja? And I post there pretty often. Basic Adventuring 101 also has its own Facebook page and Twitter handle and YouTube, and you can check all of those out. I update those, so you're talking to me usually when you're talking to those. As far as other projects going on, I've got my own vlog, Stay in Character, which is hosted by my own LARPing characters, and it just talks about different things with LARP, and hopefully a new episode will be going out very soon, and you can check that out on larping.org's YouTube channel.
Okay, Liz?
All right, well, I can be found on the Twitters at Liz_Stong, S-T-O-N-G. There is no R in there. And I can also be found on Tumblr at Zabura, Z-A-B-U-R-A. It's good times. I update both of them. Neither of them are especially exciting, but if you want to hear me like talk about writer's block, there you go.
Madison?
I am basically nowhere as well. I don't have Twitter. I have Facebook. I have Google+, but I only use it to come and do this. I don't have a website. I don't have other projects. I do photography on the side, but I don't have a website for it.
I should work on that sometime, Maddie.
Should, yeah.
Nathan, or Nate, sorry.
You could call me a late cab for dinner if you want.
Daniel.
What?
I've never rehearsed like you call me a cab, or you're a cab, or
call me late for dinner. I'm sorry. I am Blue Collar Love on DeviantArt. There's a bunch of the stuff that I've done over the past maybe 6 years up there. There might be another film project in addition to this thing this summer. I don't know what it's called. And last summer, I worked on a movie that still isn't done yet. Right now it's called Swing X, and it's a swing dancing movie and a comedy and a computer hacking movie kind of all put together. And
yeah, like, what?
huh?
What?
It comes in Cincinnati, and it was nice. But I don't know when it's coming out. If you like those things and you like to put together, maybe keep looking. I don't even know if there's a trailer for it yet, but it was a great experience, and those are all the projects I have so far.
Tammy?
Pretty much the only thing you're going to find me online for is I do a web comic, which is a bit of a stretch for what it is. It's called Catty Wampus, and you can find it on Facebook because it's the only place I've posted it so far. Just a bunch of funny things I like that I drew into comics. So that's it.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much to Eric, Kristen, Liz, Madison, Nate, and Tammy for joining us here on the 10th episode of Webisode Watch Basic Adventuring 101. Please visit their Kickstarter, which can be found at what address?
Well, you can go to basicadventuring101.com.
And they got a link there to their Kickstarter. Fund this series, guys, so we can get a full first season and into more seasons yet to come. So again, thank you very much to my guest. Until next time, guys, keep on streaming. Take care.
Later.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.